I hate the screamers. The ones who weep and wail and wonder aloud at the fate of whoever it is I'm writing about, always saying they never believe this could happen to them, although the one great lesson of the modern world is that it can happen to anyone, anytime. We are all potential victims. We look for motivation behind the violence. Why did he do it? Why did it happen to her? Those questions are pointless, of course. Things happen because they do. I liked Megan's mother. 2. After her name and address became part of the public record and the media camp out beyond the gate, the news at noon has shots of a car with tinted windows rolling into the street. Cameras and microphones and reporters bang into the vehicle. I hear what sounds like shouted questions, but they overlap, step on each other, cancel out. The car breaks free of the pack and speeds away. Megan's mother heads into seclusion. I write a short piece that says police are doing what they can, but there are no suspects, no motives, no clues. They've set up a hotline for people who might have information. The number is toll-free, of course. Fresh deaths await me. A gang shooting in Compton, a bar brawl in El Monte, a robbery victim found at home in Van Nuys. That one is nasty. She was discovered bound and gagged. She had been raped, and whoever did it extinguished their cigarettes on her flesh. The house was ransacked. Police say they've rarely seen an attack so vicious, and only a couple $100 worth of jewelry is missing. My editor says she's pleased with the story and glad I got the picture. She's going to put me in for a prize. I could get $30. Frank Gurley tells me that Megan's father lives near the beach. He gives this to me exclusively. He says he's doing it as a favor. He says I'm a good guy. He says I owe him one. When I ring the bell, a woman answers. She looks about 25 with a permanent tan. I ask if Megan's father is there, and she says he's at the surf shop around the corner. Does he own the place? I ask. No, he just works there. She looks at me with a slight frown, as if she thinks she should recognize me. Maybe we met at some long-forgotten party. Perhaps I interviewed her after somebody got killed. Or she could just be shocked by my appearance. It must be years since she's seen a man wearing a tie. She asks if I'm the guy who called last night. I say I might be. He's usually behind the counter, she says. He's expecting you. The surf shop is bright and features the canned sound of waves rhythmically swiping the beach. Near the cash register is a guy with bronzed, well-muscled look of a man engaged in non-stop battle against the onset of middle age. I identify myself and ask if he's Megan's father. He says he is. I say it's a shame what happened. He has my condolences. From everything I've heard, she seems like a nice young girl. He says he wouldn't know. It wasn't like they were close or anything. I ask when he last saw her. He says he isn't sure. It might have been Christmas. He remembers he got something and he thinks it was a bathing suit and a nice beach towel, but he can't be certain. His ex-wife would probably know. She's good at things like that. I ask if he has any special memories of Megan or anything at all. He says he remembers taking her to Disneyland once when she was small, like 4 or 5 or 6 or 7, and she was all excited and went on every ride and tried to pull the ears off Mickey Mouse. I ask when he and Megan's mother got divorced. He says it was just after Jeffrey was born. The two of them were drifting apart. It's nobody's fault. I ask how he makes a living. He says the surf shop supports him fine. In fact, he's expecting an important customer at any minute. Feral-looking men toting packs of equipment take up positions outside the church, ready to shoot anything that's news. The minister has barred them from entering. I think it's because they're all wearing t-shirts. It's nearly full inside. I slide into a pew in the back. Up front, Megan's mother is shrouded in black. Next to her is a man who is not Megan's father. He wears a dark suit, striped shirt, and red tie. His hair is turning to gray. He sits with his hands on his knees and stares straight ahead, unblinking, jaw set. He must have been taught that this was the way men act. Megan's casket is covered with lilies. The minister says she is with God now, and we should be happy for her. It's terrible when the life of one so young is taken so brutally, and everyone here extends their sympathy to Megan's loving family. They have suffered a grievous loss. He understands from talking to those who knew her that she was a wonderful girl. He wishes he had been acquainted with her. Nonetheless, from reading the Bible, we know that God has a plan, and however incomprehensible it may seem, this is part of it. Sometimes the events of the world appear cruel, arbitrary, and capricious, but we have to put our faith in Him and His divine wisdom. Just as Jesus said in the Gospel according to Luke, 2 blonde boys are in the pew with Megan's mother and the man accompanying her. One of the kids is small. I figure he must be Jeffrey. The other one is taller, thin but not skinny, with the golden brown skin and straw-colored hair that reflects a life spent at ski resorts and the beach. Behind the boys are rows of kids on either side of puberty. Some of the girls are crying. As their soft boo-hoos float through the church, infiltrating my ears, I ask myself if they're really sad or if this display of emotion just seems like the right thing to do. Can they tell the difference between Megan's killing and the thousands of fake ones they've seen on TV? I look around the church and try to calculate the number of mourners. I've always been bad at estimating crowds, but the number I give will be treated as fact. I glance at my watch. I'll go to the burial in case something happens. By the time I get to the office, I'll be right on deadline. I should have brought a laptop. I could have filed from the graveyard. One of Megan's classmates steps up to the pulpit. In a high-pitched voice that cracks every so often, she says she knew Megan for only a short time, but she seemed nice, and she's really going to miss her. They allow the mourners to leave before wheeling the casket down the aisle. Megan's mother puts on sunglasses as she steps outside. There she is! The camera crew stir behind the barricade. Get her! Get the mother! Make sure you get her! I call Megan's father at the surf shop. I didn't see you at the funeral, I say. I don't do funerals, he says. Besides, I had something going on down here. I ask if he remembers where Megan went to school before she enrolled at her current one. He says he isn't sure. I ask if his ex-wife and his children had lived at the gated community for a long time, and he says no. They just moved from West Covina. He says he doesn't recall the exact address, but they'd been there for years. I say they made a big leap in one step, and he says that's true, but his ex-wife's a smart woman and has never lacked ambition. I tell him to have a nice day. You too, he says. Noreen and I watch the news while Kristen does her homework. The bubbleheads begin the broadcast with footage from the funeral. There you are, Noreen says. I'm coming down the steps of the church, squinting under the sunlight. I seem taller than I imagined. The newscaster says there are no new leads in the case. Noreen says she recognizes the man with Megan's mother. At least he looks familiar. I ask what his name is, and she says she doesn't remember. Last year's phone directory lists a West Covina address for Megan's mother. I determined that there are 3 middle schools Megan could have attended and ask our education reporter which one was most likely. She shrugs. She doesn't know the area well, and besides, the boundaries are never clear. There are no records of Megan at the first 2 places I call. At the third, I hear the shuffling of paper and the clicking of a mouse, and then I hear that, yes, she did go there. Last year, she was enrolled in 7th grade. I ask for the names of her teachers, which I am given grudgingly. Then I request to be put through to the principal's office. Certainly, I'm told. I hear some buzzes and beeps, and the line goes dead. I look in the phone book and call the principal's number directly. A secretary answers. She asks who I am and what this is about. When I tell her, she says I'll have to hold for one moment. Several minutes pass. Every once in a while, somebody picks up the phone and asks why I'm on the line. Finally, I hear, "This is Consuelo Riviera?" I identify myself and hear a yelp of surprise. "You're not the man from the retirement fund." I say I have just a few questions. And she may already know a girl who attended her school. Consuelo. Oh, okay, sure. Attended her school last year, was found murdered a couple days ago. Riviera says she wasn't aware of that and asks for the name of the girl. When I tell her, she says she doesn't recognize it. Then I hear a click followed by a hum and static. I call the school office and ask if I can leave a message for Megan's homeroom teacher from last year. The voice on the other end sighs deeply and says, "Oh, all right, go ahead." I leave my name and number, explain why I want to talk to her. I give the best times for calling. The voice says she'll put this message in the teacher's mailbox. She can't guarantee that the woman will get it.